The text from my sister didn't ask, it demanded. I need a new car. Can you cosign? My reply was just 2 words. I had no idea they would start a war. Have you ever been punished for being the responsible one? Share your story in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe to see what happens next. My name is Clara Vega. I am 32 years old. It was a boring Thursday. Not one of those exciting Thursdays with fireworks or surprises, just a plain, ordinary day. You know, the kind that sneaks in quietly, and suddenly problems are there without you noticing. I was sitting at my desk looking at bills and invoices, making sure everything was in order, when my phone buzzed. It made that long, serious vibration that usually means trouble. I picked it up, and there was a text. No hi. No how are you. No friendly words at all. Just a demand. I need a new car. Can you cosign from Isla? She didn't even say please. To explain, I own my house. I pay all my bills. I keep spreadsheets where other people might keep track of their feelings. I like to know exactly what is happening and what money is going where. I am the responsible one. For years, I had been the one who quietly helped the family, the one who fixed things and forgave people, even when everyone else seemed to love drama more than calm. Isla is 28. She is bright and smart, but she is also very dramatic. She has had more jobs than most people have coffee mugs. She is very good at crying in public, which in our family is a kind of superpower. When she cries in front of everyone, she becomes the sad, hurt one. And if anyone tries to say no to her, that person is automatically wrong. I read her message 2 times, then I laughed. It was a short, irritated laugh, a little surprising even to me. I typed back, keep dreaming. I didn't expect what happened next. The reply came, not from Isla, but from Dad. All caps. Refuse and you're cut off from family events. It was like holding a hot coin in my hand. Most people might feel guilty, and maybe even apologize. Me. I felt something inside me change. I went from tired to cold to very deliberate. There had been a shared credit line between me and Isla. I had agreed to it reluctantly years ago, at a Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone had looked at me like I was supposed to help because I was a responsible, steady adult. They framed it like I was being charitable. I saw it as a trap. Isla had maxed out that line on things like a high-end coffee machine she showed off in 6 different videos online, a fancy coat she posted pictures of, and other things that made her happy for a moment, but left me paying the bills later. I called the bank and closed the shared line digitally in less than an hour. I watched the confirmation email arrive in my inbox like proof. I didn't make a speech. I didn't yell. I just removed the safety net they had always counted on me to provide. By the next morning, my phone was full of missed calls. 36 of them. 12 were from Isla, 9 from Dad, some from cousins, and even one aunt who clearly liked being involved. I didn't answer any of them. This was not about a car. It had never really been about a car. It was about all the years my family had taken from me without noticing. I had always been the responsible one, the one who paid, fixed, forgave. They called me calm. They called me reasonable. Anything to make it easy to ask me for more. They thought I would cave like I always had. But this time I didn't. Let's go back a little. 3 years ago, Isla had punctured 2 of my tires because I refused to let her borrow my car for a music festival. She posted a photo of the flat tires online with laughing emojis, acting like it was a joke. When I asked her to pay for the repairs, an ordinary, fair request, everyone told me I was overreacting. No apology, no payment, nothing. The message was clear. Keep your mouth shut and nothing falls apart. Later, during a holiday dinner at our parents' house, Isla started one of her monologues about how I never supported her dreams. She screamed, and she threw her drink in my face. Cold wine spilled down my skin. And at that moment, something inside me became very clear. I walked into the kitchen and grabbed a pair of scissors from the counter. I moved like someone walking through fog, but every movement was calm and precise. I returned and cut a long chunk of her hair, the hair she had obsessed over for years. The house went silent. She screamed. My mom cried. My dad froze like he had seen something he didn't want to think about. And me? I felt strangely calm, like I had finally found a switch inside me labeled enough. They kicked me out that night. Not because Isla threw wine, but because I had retaliated. And yet, the next morning, everything spun as if nothing had happened. Fast forward to this week. Isla had wrecked the older Camry I had lent her. I hadn't transferred the title or legal ownership. It had been a loan, a risk I took to help her. She called it her car online and acted as if it was hers. Then she wrecked it, blaming faulty brakes. Not once did she say sorry. Instead, she asked me for a co-signed loan for a brand new car. So I walked through my decision like a small, quiet ceremony. I closed the shared line. I removed myself from the family chat. I pulled the Camry back into my garage by proxy, quietly, with help from friends in the towing business. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just did it. I sent her a photo of the empty driveway. No words, no flourishes. It felt like closing a door and realizing the handle had finally warmed to my hand. By noon, the family chat had turned into a battlefield. My mother texted, "Clara, we need to talk ASAP. This isn't like you." I left the chat entirely. That little action felt like lifting a hand off a hot stove. I could feel some people noticing, like my cousin Miles, who said, "Maybe it's time someone put Isla in her place." That was the first time in years I felt seen, not manipulated, not asked to fix anything, just recognized. A day later, a note appeared under my windshield. Childish handwriting said, "Petty, grow up." I didn't text back. Isla had a pattern: tantrum, manipulation, sympathy. When threats didn't work, she played the victim. She whispered a new story that I had emotionally abused her for years. She rewrote our history like it was a bad script. In her version, she was the brave, neglected child, and I was the cold, unloving one. But some family members were starting to wake up. Uncle Leonard called one night in a half-whisper and said he had had enough. Miles texted me a screenshot of Isla's story online captioned, "Resilience. It grows back stronger." The family was beginning to split. I made a call to an auto auction contact and arranged for the Camry to be picked up and sold cleanly. No paper trail, cash only. I sent her a photo of the truck. Sold. Silence followed. It felt heavy and strange. Not the peace of harmony, but the peace of a job finally finished. Then came the envelope. No stamp, no name. Inside was a copy of a note written by Isla herself. In it, she confessed how she had planned to manipulate me, how she counted on my softness. At the bottom, in Miles's handwriting, was a message. "You didn't get this from me. I'm tired of watching you take the fall." I felt vindicated for a second, and then very small. The letter meant nothing if no one would listen. The next morning, I found the spare key missing from the fake rock by the garden. My dad had taken it at 2:48 a.m., caught on camera. No explanation. My family still had access to parts of my life I wanted closed. So, I began to prepare. New locks, reinforced deadbolts, smart cameras for the backyard. I paid extra to have a locksmith come that afternoon. The clicking of new keys felt symbolic. This time, I was the one deciding who could come through my door. That evening, I sat with the bank confirmation in my inbox and a cold cup of coffee. I felt a small, dangerous calm. They thought the problem was a car. The problem had always been control. Who got to call what was normal in our family? Who got to use emotions as leverage? Who got to be forgiven? I closed a chapter the way someone cuts off a repeating infection. Not with fire, not with anger, but with precision. There is a line people draw between right and wrong in families. In our house, that line had always shifted toward the loudest voice. For the first time in a while, it shifted toward me. I slept poorly that night. Not scared, not proud, just alert. The world felt different, like I had taken back some power I had been giving away for years. I realized that sometimes being the responsible one isn't about doing everything for everyone. It's about deciding where your limits are and sticking to them. The next morning, the quiet feeling stayed with me. My coffee was cold again, but it didn't matter. I had done what I needed to do. I had closed the doors, set the boundaries, and finally, quietly, calmly, decided that my life belonged to me, not to anyone else. Even though Isla would still try to manipulate, and my family might not understand, I knew I had the power to protect myself. For the first time in a very long time, I wasn't the one who always had to give in. And that felt strange, heavy, and right. There was a text at 2:15 a.m. It said, "You'll regret this." My heart skipped a beat. Other times my tires had been cut too. Threats had happened before in our house, like they were part of the daily rhythm. But this time I was ready. I had cameras watching everything. I had changed the locks so no one could get in. I had the receipt from the auction that proved the car was mine. I had a letter that showed the truth. And I had friends who were tired of believing everything Isla said. Being alone is strange. Sometimes it feels sad, like punishment. But sometimes it feels like a gift. When you stop talking to your whole family, you also stop hearing the same stories over and over. I felt lighter because I didn't have to protect so many people anymore. But I also knew one thing for sure. The quiet after what I had done would not be peaceful. It would bring trouble. And I was ready to do more than just defend myself. For the first time in years, I could make a plan. When you grow up in a family where everyone always feels guilty, silence is never calm. Silence is a warning. It means something is about to happen. The morning after I closed the credit line and got the Camry back, the house was unusually quiet. Even my phone seemed nervous. It buzzed only once and then stopped. I made coffee, opened the curtains, and told myself this calm might last. I knew better. By noon, messages started coming in like a storm. Aunt Carla wrote, "Sweetheart, your mother's worried. Call her." Dad wrote, "I raised you better than this." Mom wrote, "We need to talk now." And finally, Isla. She left a voice message that started with quiet crying and ended with mean, sharp words. "You think you're better than me because you have your own place. You're pathetic. Enjoy your little victory." I didn't even finish listening. I deleted it. My coffee had gone cold, but deleting that mean message felt warm in a strange way. The next day, Miles called me. He sounded quiet, like he was sneaking into a dangerous place. "She's telling everyone you stole her car, Clara," he said. I sighed. Technically, the car had never been hers. "I know. Uncle Leonard knows too. But your dad is repeating her version of the story. You might want to get ready for a big family fight," Miles warned. He wasn't wrong. That weekend, my mom organized a family meeting. In our house, that really meant an ambush disguised as making peace. I went curious to see what would happen. The moment I walked in, I could smell Mom's strong perfume mixed with tension. Dad sat stiffly in his recliner, hands folded like he was preparing to announce a big verdict. Isla sat on the couch. Her eyes were red from crying, but she looked defiant, like nothing could touch her. She wore a sweatshirt that said, "Empathy is my superpower." I almost laughed because it was so ironic. "Clara," Mom began softly, almost pleading, "we just want this to stop. You've humiliated your sister. By taking back something that legally belongs to me?" I asked calmly. Dad raised his voice. "It's not about the car. It's about how you did it. You embarrassed the family." I looked at Isla. "Did I embarrass the family? Or did you embarrass yourself when you crashed the car, lied about it, and tried to make me pay for the replacement?" Mom's tone became sharp. "She's struggling, Clara. You know how she is when she feels cornered." I finished firmly. "Yes, I do." Isla shouted. "You're so cold. No wonder no one wants to be around you." It hurt, but not because it was true. It hurt because it was a line the family had used for years whenever I refused to be their hero. I stood up. "This isn't a negotiation. I'm not your lender, your scapegoat, or your punching bag," I said. Then I walked out. As I reached the front door, I saw Isla's faint smirk. She thought I had proven her point. That night, Miles texted me. "You might want to check Isla's Instagram. She's posting about you again." I opened it. It was a photo of our empty driveway. The caption said, "When family steals from you, remember karma's a better driver." Hundreds of people liked it. Many left comments saying things like, "Wow, that's terrible," and "I can't believe your sister did that." I didn't reply. I didn't defend myself. But I saved the post. I had learned something important. When people lie to get power, you don't argue. You collect proof. 2 days later, I called Caleb, my contact at a local car auction. He owed me a favor. "The Camry," I said. "I want it gone. Cash sale. No trace." He whistled. "Rough breakup?" "Worse," I said. "Family." By Friday, the car was gone. Sold, paid, erased. That weekend, I got another text. A photo of Isla at brunch, holding a mimosa. She smiled too happily. The caption said, "Fresh starts and better cars ahead." That's when I knew she was planning something. Sure enough, the calm lasted only 3 days. Then a story started spreading. Isla told relatives that I had emotionally hurt her for years. She said I controlled her money, cut her off from the family, and used money to punish love. For years, I stayed quiet when she told half-truths because correcting her felt impossible. But now I have proof. Every transfer, every message, every repair invoice I paid for her. I had it all. I didn't fight back yet. I wanted her to underestimate me. Late that night, Miles texted again. "She's getting worse. Telling Grandma you stole her car and her savings." "Her savings?" I wrote back. "She's never saved a single dime in her life." "Exactly. That's why it worked." I stared at the screen. That familiar ache came back. The one you feel when someone lies about you and everyone believes them. The next morning, I found something in my mailbox. An envelope. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a folded letter in Isla's handwriting. She hadn't sent it to me. It was a draft of a letter she planned to send to our parents. He's soft. He acts cold, but he's desperate to be liked. He'll cave. He always does. She met me. At the bottom, in a different hand, it said, "You didn't get this from me. I'm tired of watching you take the fall, Miles." I stared at it. My hands shook. It was proof, not of her cruelty, which I already knew, but of her plan. She wasn't lashing out because she was hurt. She was hurting people on purpose. That night, I sat on my couch and thought about it. She had built her power by making people feel sorry for her. My power would come from the truth. So I made a plan. There was a family barbecue coming up. Uncle Gideon's annual no-drama event. I wasn't invited. Perfect. This time, the drama would show itself. Family events can be peaceful, or they can turn into war zones in an instant. Everyone smiles until gossip begins. Uncle Gideon's barbecue was no different. I wasn't invited, but Gideon and I had an understanding. He stayed neutral. When I called to ask if I could drop by and return his Tupperware, he sighed. "No drama, Clara," he said. "I promise," I said. Because what I was planning wasn't drama. It was the truth. I arrived just before sunset. The yard was full of people laughing. The smell of grilled ribs was everywhere. Fairy lights hung above the tables. Children ran around playing tag, and adults were chatting and drinking soda. I could hear Isla before I saw her. Her voice was dramatic, trying to get everyone's attention. She stole it. My own sister took my car and sold it. I'm still paying therapy bills because of it. People murmured. Some looked concerned. Some looked confused. I caught Miles's eye. He gave a slight nod. I quietly pulled a small Bluetooth speaker from my bag, connected it to my phone, and pressed play. The music stopped, and my voice began reading the letter. Calm, even word by word. He's soft. He acts cold, but he's desperate to be liked. He'll cave. He always does. Conversations froze. People turned to listen. Mom's wine glass stopped midair. I read every manipulative line, every confession. When I finished, the silence was perfect. You could hear the crackle of the grill. I looked straight at Isla. She was pale. Her eyes darted around. For the first time, she had no plan. Mom whispered, "Clara, what is this?" "A letter," I said. "One your daughter wrote. One she forgot other people can read." Dad opened his mouth, but no words came out. Isla jumped back from the table. "You're insane," she shouted. "That's fake." Miles stepped forward. I showed him the letter. "It's real." Isla's eyes widened in shock. She felt betrayed. Mom stood up, her voice trembling. "Everyone, please don't do this here." But it was too late. The performance was over. No one could unhear the truth. Isla ran inside and slammed the door so hard the windows shook. People were still looking at each other, whispering softly. I stayed on the deck for a moment, watching. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm. The truth was out. The lies couldn't hurt me anymore. I took a deep breath, smiling quietly to myself. This was just the beginning. I had learned that when people build power with lies, the best power comes from honesty. And this time I had it. A little while later, her car, her new used hatchback, squealed as it drove out of the driveway. Gravel flew everywhere like little sparks from a campfire. Everyone in the yard stayed frozen for a long moment, watching. Then Uncle Gideon muttered quietly, "Well, the burgers are done." People tried to act normal again, but it was clear something had changed. The air felt heavier. Conversations became quiet, and people whispered to each other in small corners. Mom didn't look at me. Dad's face looked tired and older, like he had aged 10 years in one night. Miles came over and handed me a cold soda. "Wasn't expecting a speech," he said quietly. I gave a small smile. "Sometimes people need to hear themselves," I said. He chuckled softly, but then he got serious. "Are you ready for what comes next?" I nodded. "I've been living with it for years. I'm ready." That night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It said, "You win this time." There was no name. I didn't need one. I slept surprisingly well that night, even though I knew this wasn't over. Then, at exactly 1:17 a.m., my doorbell camera pinged. Someone was standing on my porch holding a grocery bag. It wasn't Isla. It was my dad. He looked around carefully, then tried the doorknob. The door didn't open. He stood there for a long moment, his shoulders drooping, like a weight had fallen on him. Then he turned and walked away. I watched the video 3 times before saving it. The timestamp read 1:17 a.m., the same night he had texted earlier. I realized he wasn't trying to be in the middle anymore. He was on my doorstep. The next morning, I installed another layer of security around my house. I got a new alarm system, reinforced locks, and cameras in places that had blind spots. Then I sent a short, final group text to the family. No one is allowed on my property. If you have a key, it is useless. This is not a discussion. Miles replied almost instantly. Uncle Leonard sent a thumbs-up emoji, his first ever. Mom and Dad sent nothing. Isla stayed silent. A week later, Grandma called. Her voice was soft and uncertain. I don't understand everything, dear, she said slowly. But I trust you. That one small sentence hit me hard. It was the first gentle word from someone in months. For the first time since the war in our family had started, I felt something close to peace. But peace in our family was never permanent. I had learned that silence was just the space between storms. And the next storm was already forming. After the barbecue, I didn't hear from my parents or Isla at all. No calls, no sudden knocks on my door, no forwarded messages about family unity or guilt. Even the family group chat went dead. A gray banner appeared that said, "You left this conversation." At first, the quiet felt wrong. I had spent my whole life surrounded by noise. People shouting, crying, accusing, and dramatizing. Silence felt strange, like a missing heartbeat. But as the days turned to weeks, I began to enjoy it. I watered my plants. I slept in. I cooked dinner without checking my phone between bites. Then, one Tuesday night, I came home to find a folded note tucked between my front door and the frame. No envelope, no handwriting I recognized. Just 4 words scribbled quickly, "Check your back gate." My heart beat faster. I walked around to the back of the house. The latch on my fence was broken clean through. There were boot prints in the dirt that led halfway into the yard and then stopped. Whoever had tried to come in had given up halfway. My cameras hadn't caught anything. They had found a blind spot I hadn't realized existed. I called Miles. He arrived 20 minutes later, flashlight in hand, scanning the yard like a detective from a late-night TV show. "You think it was her?" he asked quietly. I didn't answer. Because if it wasn't Isla, it meant someone else was acting for her. And somehow that was worse. We didn't find anything else that night. When I went inside, my hands were shaking, not from fear but from exhaustion. The next morning, I upgraded everything. A new fence latch, a second motion sensor, brighter floodlights, and a camera hidden near the back steps. When the technician finished, he said gently, "You have more security than most offices." I smiled weakly. "You haven't met my family," I said. Later that week, a Facebook notification appeared. Isla had tagged me in a post. A long paragraph written in her usual dramatic style. She wrote that some people turn pain into cruelty, and some into healing. She said she forgave me, even if I would never admit what I did. The comments poured in. "She's so strong. Proud of you for speaking your truth." I scrolled once, twice, then closed the app. 15 minutes later, Miles texted me, "Ignore her. She's unraveling." "No," I replied. "She's rebranding." Isla did what she always did best. Turn every disaster into a story that made her look like the misunderstood hero. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, the first in months, and sat by the window. I watched the security lights flicker across the lawn. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. I thought of Grandma's call, her quiet voice saying, "I trust you." That one small act of trust had kept me sane. Then my phone buzzed with a voicemail. It was my mom. Her voice was cautious, shaky. "Clara, your father wants to talk. Please don't hang up. If we call tomorrow, it's about Isla." Something in her tone made me pause. It wasn't guilt or fear. The next evening, Dad called. I didn't answer. He called again, then again. Finally, I picked up. "Clara," he said, "she's in trouble." "Whose definition of trouble?" I asked. He hesitated. "She missed 2 credit payments. The bank froze her account. She's been calling everyone, saying you ruined her." I exhaled slowly. "Dad, I didn't ruin her. I stopped saving her. She's your daughter too. Don't forget that." Silence. Then I said quietly, "She's your daughter. I'm your daughter. You need to remember that part." He didn't reply. I sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about all the times I had been expected to rescue her, and how those rescues had only made her weaker. 2 days later, Miles sent me another message. Isla tried to get a new loan using Mom's name. Got denied. She even tried to use your address. I laughed tiredly. "She's consistent," I said. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just another tantrum. It escalated. It was desperation disguised as chaos. The next morning, a small package arrived at my door. No sender, no note. Inside was a broken house key mine. The handle had been twisted as if someone tried to force it into a lock. It no longer fits. I stood at my doorway, holding the broken key. The quiet hum of the neighborhood surrounded me. A breeze carried the faint smell of barbecue smoke from somewhere down the street. And I realized something important. They weren't just losing access to my house. They were losing access to me. The door wasn't just locked. It was closed for good. It was strange. The loudest part of letting go was the silence that followed. Weeks passed with no calls, no letters, no midnight visits. Even Isla's social media feed went quiet, like she had finally run out of storylines to make herself the hero. You might think I would feel relief, but peace felt strange and almost foreign. I had lived my whole life waiting for the next emotional explosion. Silence felt unusual, almost uncomfortable at first. I went through my mornings carefully, methodically. Coffee, emails, work, plants. I found comfort in small, controllable things. One evening, as the sun set over the porch, I opened my mailbox and found a plain envelope. Inside was a check for $42.22. The memo line read, "Gas money. No apology." I laughed quietly, bitterly. The number was almost insulting in its precision. It wasn't a peace offering. It was Isla's way of saying, "You didn't break me." But what she didn't understand was, I wasn't trying to be broken. I was trying to free myself. Later that week, Mom called. I almost didn't answer. But when I did, her voice was soft, almost fragile. "Your father's been quiet," she said. "He doesn't know how to fix this." "You can't fix people who don't think they're broken," I replied. She sighed. "You're both my daughters." "I know," I said gently. "But I'm the only one who ever had to prove it." Silence. Then a whisper. "She misses you." I didn't argue. Sometimes silence is a form of truth too. A few days later, Miles stopped by after work. He stood in my doorway, arms crossed. "Guess what?" he said. I smiled. "You look too serious for good news." "She bought a used hatchback," he said. "Named it Karma." I laughed. "Fitting," I said. "Yeah," Miles added, smirking. "Karma's got 3 different colors on the hood." We stood there for a long moment, just laughing. The kind of laughter that comes after years of holding your breath. When he left, I sat on my porch steps watching the streetlights blink on one by one. I thought about the years I spent being the quiet one, the reasonable one, the one who patched things up, paid bills, swallowed insults so peace could survive another day. And then I thought of the locks, the new keys, and the absence of their footsteps. Maybe peace wasn't supposed to feel grand. Maybe it was just this, an unlocked phone, unanswered texts, an empty driveway, and a life that finally belonged to me. I took the letter Isla had written, the one Miles had slipped me, and set it in the fireplace. The paper curled slowly, the ink fading into ash. That's when I realized something important. Revenge hadn't saved me. Boundaries had. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need the family's applause. All I needed was that quiet certainty. The kind that comes from knowing you survived their noise and built your own silence. The next morning, I drove to Grandma's house. She was in her garden, trimming roses. When she saw me, her eyes softened. "Long time, my girl," she said. "I know," I whispered. We sat on the porch, sharing tea that tasted like forgiveness, or maybe something close to it. When I stood to leave, Grandma touched my hand. "You did what you had to do," she said. "Sometimes peace looks like distance." I nodded. "It does now," I said. Back in my car, I glanced at the rearview mirror. The house grew smaller as I drove away. The sun glinted off the windows, gardens swayed in the wind. For the first time in a long, exhausting stretch of years, I didn't feel watched, didn't feel owed, didn't feel trapped in someone else's story. I felt free. When I reached home, I stood at my front door for a moment, key in hand. The lock clicked, solid and satisfying. I smiled. This time it wasn't about keeping people out. It was about finally keeping myself safe, and finally keeping myself in control of my life.